Well, hello! Today I'd like to welcome you to my review of the Parker Vacumatic. This is a fun celluloid pen that replaced the Parker Duofold and definitely brings some real art to the Parker world. So let's dive into it. If videos like this interest you, where I talk about fountain pens both new and old and at all price points, I would invite you to subscribe. And hey, do you have a favorite Parker model? This isn't my favorite, but it's definitely a good one. So let's take a look at it. So the pen has what's called a laminated celluloid finish. And as I say that, I realize that I recorded this video already. But you never saw it because it was one of that batch that 2 years ago was lost on a external hard drive that was destroyed. So I guess I'll start this over. So anyway, these pens were introduced in 1933 and displaced the Parker Duofold, which was a revolutionary pen in its time. Picture this, coming on the market beside the Duofold, and you can see why this one really took over. These continued production till 1948, 1953 in Canada. What it is rings of celluloid that have been laminated together. Some finishes are more translucent than others. This one isn't particularly translucent. If you hold it up to really bright light, you can kind of see some translucency, but nothing special. The date code on this one, which appears here, is a 7 with 3 dots, which puts it in the first quarter of 1937 or 1947. So which one? Both date codes would be the same. So this is a bit of a clue. The biggest clue for me came here from the plastic button. It tells me 1947. And at 128 millimeters long, it is probably a junior size. Now, after I get this inked up, I'll show you how this works, but basically we're depressing a latex bladder in here. There's a feeder tube in here, and we depress it and then let it come up. The negative pressure causes the ink to get pushed up into here, and it continues every time we press until we reach the top of the feeder tube. The nib on it, I already know because it's not a first impression. This is a review. I've written with it before. Nice nib, writes well, but it's not a flex nib or anything cool. It's just a plain ordinary nib. Older models of this would have had a blue diamond here. This one did not. And yeah. So let's ink it up with a nice Parker ink. How about Parker Quink? Green. Which weirdly enough I was able to purchase on Amazon, but it is a discontinued color. So I'll remove the blind cap again. I'm just thinking there's a Visconti that it's either out now or it was out that uses the same laminated finish. There, you can see the bubbles every time I press. Pushes the air out, creates negative pressure. More ink gets pulled in each time until it reaches the top of the feeder tube, which I'll draw. Tonight I'm starting a new pen review notebook, which will be more conducive for drawing anyway. Okay, we're not getting the bubbles like we were, so I think it's pretty much full, or good enough for review anyway. So yeah, that's one of the problems with the Vacumatic, is it does take a lot of button presses to fill these puppies. Nice filling mechanism in a lot of ways. The Chinese have actually, is it Pen BBS, I think, has come out with a replacement for this that actually uses a spring and a little piston instead of a latex bladder to create the negative pressure, and I think that's awesome. Very excited to see that. I've used an Apica CD notebook for years. This is the second one since I started doing these reviews in notebooks. And I have one blank page left and decided it's time to do a review. So, rather than fill that page up, I just decided, let's start a new notebook. Because I want to save that one page for review. This is different. The difference with this one is it has a black cover to start with. Comes with all this nonsense. So, nice plastic cover, which I'm removing. I suppose it would keep the notebook nice if I left it on, but who cares? And inside, at the suggestion of a viewer of this channel, I'm going to try out blank paper. Yeah, no lines, buddy. So I present to you the Parker Vacumatic. The ink in it is, of course, Parker Quink Green. Not, the most amazing color, but no longer on the market, so, at $10, I was excited to get a bottle of it. So, Parker Quink Green. This is not one of their flex nibs, but it definitely has some line variation. And holy cow, does it show this ink off very well. Wetness and flow. Because it's such a fine writer, it does take a while to run this pen dry. Whoops, flow. Talking and writing at the same time. Normally a teacher can do that, but it's getting towards 9 o'clock and this teacher needs to go to bed. The smear test. Yeah, that's a wet one. So I'm going to flip to a blank page here by doing this. I want to just explain briefly what happens. Now, you purists, don't get mad. So here's my feed. Here is my little breather tube. Now, latex, if you actually buy the diaphragm that's in this, it's a... Okay, can I say this on YouTube? It's shaped like a condom. But we'll just draw it flat for the sake of time, because I really don't want to get into the intricacies of it all. And then we have a push button on top. Anywho, when we push down, that expels the air out the breather tube. And then when it flexes back up, the ink comes up and fountains down to the sides. And we can continue to do that until the ink level gets up level to breather tube, and then we're done. You can go to Richard Binder's website. I'll try to put a link on how this filling mechanism works on the Evernote link. Oh, and in the video description. I want to say Edison Pens also has a modern version of this besides Pen BBS. Theirs is more like the traditional Parker version, however. So back to the writing sample. It's time for our writing sample. So we're going to do a slightly longer form quote. Not as long as some of the other reviews I did tonight, because I'm getting tired. And my handwriting is no longer really up to par. And now it's time for the world-famous Pierre Gustafson test. I think there may have been some minor skippage in there, but it's hard to tell sometimes if it's me or if it's the pen. But overall, I think I did decently, not amazing, at the Pierre Gustafson test. And that's an off-roading test, don't take your Camry driving through the Badlands unless it's on a paved road or a road in general. One other test I always like to do with these pens. Yep, passed that one with flying colors. Fits right in the pocket. So I'm just putting myself back in 1933. Most of the fountain pens of that time were squared off pens like the Duofold and ebonite. And here comes this laminated ring finish and rounded and contoured and just yum! So I can see why this pen took off and why it ended up displacing the Duofold in Parker's lineup. The nib on this one isn't my favorite. I'm scared of the day when I have to replace the diaphragm that's in it. Not the nice flat diaphragm like in my diagram, but like I said, condom-shaped diaphragm. I'm a little scared of that one. So we'll cross that bridge when we come to it one of these days. Hopefully never. I'm 44. Can I live a life without replacing it? We'll see. I enjoy this pen though. It's not one of those like, oh, I want one in every finish, but I wouldn't mind having a couple others with a couple different nibs. It is a fun one. It is a very striking one in my collection. So, and yeah, if you've been following pens in use the last few years, I've inked it up a number of times. I enjoy this pen. So, if videos like this interest you, where I talk about fountain pens, both new and old, and at all price points, I would invite you to subscribe. And if you don't mind indulging somebody who is up, well, not quite past his bedtime, but really uncomfortably close to it, let us know down in the comments, what's your favorite Parker model, new or old? I think that'd be interesting. Everybody talks about the engineering of the 51, but Parker was a real innovator. There's a lot of innovation in this pen. There was a lot of innovation in the original Duofold. And frankly, I will admit that their 5th generation thing was a bit of nonsense, and their modern pens aren't super exciting, but they still make some darn good pens. So let us know down in the comments what's your favorite Parker model. And as always, I want to thank you for watching. We'll see you later. Bye-bye.